My group that am with, we decided to have our topic be plants. The question I picked was, how do plants get water up to the top of their leaves, defying gravity? Because that wouldn't really work, but I wanted to know how that would happen. The experiment I did was, how does the way you water the plants and how often you water the plants depend on the growth, and you can see if you water the top of the plants by misting them or the soil, which way would help it grow more. The first thing I did is I went to Home Depot and I asked the garden employee which plants would grow the fastest. And the reason I did this was because I did have only 2 weeks and plants do take a long time to grow. And they said chives, cherry tomatoes, and I also wanted to try a flower just for my knowledge to know if that would even grow faster. So with this, I bought 3 of those plants, and then I also bought 12 small plastic pots. That was 3 of them for each plant. When I got home, I wrote on each pot for 3 of the pots for each plant, and I wrote the first one I was going to only mist the top of the leaves, half a cup of water. The second one I was going to water the soil every day, half a cup. And then the third one I was only going to water the soil, half a cup, every 3 days. After this, I decided on the first day to start it off right away after I bought them. So I put half a cup of water on the 3-day pot and the everyday pot on the soil, and I misted half a cup of water on the mist. And then every 3 days, when I would water the every 3-day plant, I would also measure and take a picture of the plants to see the progression of this. When I actually took the data of this, it was hard to exactly show me which one would grow the fastest with how I watered it, because every day I was measuring it, it would change, it would decrease, it would increase, and it wouldn't show me which one actually went the fastest and which way. Where in the beginning I thought that misting it every day would be better because it was kind of like rain coming down, and that's how plants normally get their water. From my results, I decided that the best way was to take the data that from the first day to the last day instead of the in-between, but I still have all the data from everything that I will show at the end. From the results I found is that chives are the fastest when I misted them, while cherry tomatoes and the flower did better when pulling the water up through the roots every day when I watered around the roots. The way this experiment relates to my question is by showing how water from the soil brings the water up to the leaves, and how different ways of watering and applying makes a difference with the growth also. Now, there are 2 different ways that plants get the water up towards the leaves, defying gravity. The first way is cohesion and tension, which is also known as transpiration, which is the evaporation of the plant's stomata, which is the cell structure of the epidermis, which is the outer layer of the plant, of the tree leaves. This process starts with evaporation, then the tension will pull the water up towards the xylem, which is the middle part. It's kind of like multiple layers, kind of like an onion. Moving the water up towards the top, kind of like the way I figure it is that it's like you're sucking on a straw. You have to suck it up, and that's what the tension does. Lastly, cohesion happens, which is when the water sticks to the other water molecules when reaching the top of the plants. The second way that water gets up towards the top of the plant is by capillary action, which is the tendency for a liquid to move up, defying gravity, when in a narrow tube, which is technically what the xylem is. It's a narrow tube right in the middle of the root, right in the middle of the plant. It's like when you spill a liquid on a surface and you take a paper towel and try to like dab it down, hit it down, the water will come up towards it, towards the paper towel, and that's how it grabs it. This happens through three properties: cohesion, adhesion, and surface tension. Cohesion and adhesion are the two that work together to bring the water up through that xylem that we were talking about, while the surface tension will actually keep the water in the water droplets, bringing it up towards the leaves, so then there are little droplets still on leaves that stay there. They're very microscopic. You won't see them. It's not like big raindrops coming on the leaves and you still see them. They're gonna always be there. Now, with doing my experiment, I did take pictures every day, and I made a PowerPoint for this, and I will turn this around. So I did have to make a new video because I'm not good at technology, but I did take pictures of it every day, not every day, but every 3 to 4 days. The thing that I saw with this is that the flowers looked good at the beginning, and then they started to wrinkle and not look so good, so I was a bit worried, but then they started just growing new flowers. So this is March 23rd, March 29th, April 3rd, April 5th, and April 8th, which is the final day. Then with the chives, which was very hard to take pictures of because they were so tiny and you can't really tell, so I decided to put red lines to kind of give you the idea. This was March 23rd, March 29th, April 3rd, April 5th. As you can tell, the mist per day was actually large. And then finally, April 8th. Then we're gonna go to cherry tomatoes, which you could tell a huge difference in them the most with these pictures. This was March 23rd, March 29th, April 2nd, April 5th, and then finally April 8th, which you can actually see with the water dirt every day that it grew a tremendous, even if you're looking at these pictures. So you know that watering the dirt every day for cherry tomatoes is the best bet to have them grow. And then this is my data. It is a lot of data, so I'm gonna let it sit here for a little bit. But I did keep every single data from in between, even though it was a bit inconclusive and didn't answer many of my main questions. So I just took the data from the top and I took it from the bottom and I subtracted the last date from the first date, and it gave me these numbers over here, giving me to find out that cherry tomatoes grew the best with watering every day, a flower grew best with watering dirt every day, and the chives grew the best when you actually misted them once per day, which is very interesting because you wouldn't think that it would make a difference, but it does. So this was my experiment. I think that it was a very difficult experiment for me, but I think it generally answered my question, and it kind of shocked me a bit for what I found out. But that was my experiment.